Introducing the all-new Italiano range of pizza. Pizza Ultimo. Pizza Hut.
Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Sonali Manika Badage. Flushed and wedged inside a sewer pipe, a group of firefighters and surgeons rescue an infant in China. We have the details for you later on in the news. But first, here's a look at the stories making the headlines tonight.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa meets with his Chinese counterpart. Minister of External Affairs Professor G.L. Peiris says that ties between Colombo and Beijing will not affect other nations. Teachers' unions say they will not accept the appointment of the new Vice-Chancellor of the Colombo University. And India's Defence Minister says Sri Lankan military personnel will not receive training in Tamil Nadu.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa met Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing today on the second day of his four-day visit aimed at boosting ties between the two countries.
President Rajapaksa and Sri Lanka First Lady Shirantha Rajapaksa were greeted by President Xi and Chinese First Lady P-1 on the steps of the Great Hall of the People before the two state heads attended a meeting with Chinese and Sri Lankan delegates present. Both presidents oversaw the signing of several agreements on political, economic, cultural and tourism sectors later in the evening. A Chinese government document released last week said China will lend $580 million to Sri Lanka to help implement key infrastructure projects. Meanwhile, the chairman of the China's Exim Bank, Lee Ruogo, had promised President Rajapaksa that the bank would continue to support development activities in Sri Lanka. President Mahinda Rajapaksa had met with the chairman of Exim Bank, China, this morning.
Minister of External Affairs Professor G.L. Peiris, speaking to the Chinese media, said that relations between Sri Lanka and China will not be of harm to any other country. The minister had added that the ties between Colombo and Beijing were not exclusive.
Minister Professor G.L. Peiris said that there is no intention of causing harm to any other world power by maintaining ties between Sri Lanka and China. The minister had told Chinese media that Colombo maintains relations with all other countries. Minister G.L. Peiris had also pointed out that China does not expect to cause any risk to any other country by taking advantage of the ties between Colombo and Beijing. The minister added that China had rendered tremendous support to Sri Lanka's economic development and for the development of infrastructure after defeating terrorism. The Minister of External Affairs is accompanying President Mahinda Rajapaksa on his four-day official visit to China.
Let's now take a quick look at the newspaper cartoon of the day.
Indian Defence Minister A.K. Anthony says that training will not be provided to Sri Lankan military personnel in Tamil Nadu. The BBC reports that the Indian Defence Minister made this statement during a ceremony held to declare open an airline runway in Thanjavur area. Trainings in Tamil Nadu for the Sri Lankan military were suspended previously due to demonstrations against such training. According to the BBC, Sri Lankan military personnel continue to undergo training in certain provinces in India, while the statement made by the Indian Defence Minister A.K. Anthony reiterated a previous decision taken by the Indian government.
Meanwhile, the leader of the Dravida Munnetra Kalagam party, or DMK in India, M. Karunanidhi, says that a question has arisen regarding whether the Northern Provincial Council election in Sri Lanka will be held as scheduled. According to the BBC, Karunanidhi has expressed this sentiment in a media release. He further charges that attempts are being made to stop the vesting of power in Tamil-speaking people in Sri Lanka and to abolish the 13th Amendment to the Constitution.
In the meantime, a public interest litigation seeking to reinvestigate the assassination of former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was filed in the Madras High Court today. According to The Hindu, the petitioner V. Santakumaresan, an advocate, said in his PIL that, quote, the reinvestigation in the interest of justice may bring out buried truths, unquote. The petitioner said that Santhan, Murugan and Peririvalan, who were facing the death penalty in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, should be protected against this background.
Leader of the Democratic Party, Sarath Fonseca, says that the present political culture in the country must change.
Sarath Fonseca expressed these views while engaging in a tour of the Sena Kudirupu area in Putlam this morning.
If the current opposition party comes into power, I strongly believe that they too will engage in the same corrupt activities that this government is engaging in. I have also heard some of the MPs in the UNP who make a majority of the opposition say that they need to come into power to work for their people. Yet, they never say anything about serving the 20 million people in this country. Therefore, there needs to be a new force. There needs to be politicians who will serve the people.
At present, the public are constantly being informed to use electricity sparingly. However, there are countless occasions where electricity goes to waste due to the negligence of responsible institutions. A News First View reporter submitted the following footage of such an occasion.
This is Maitland Place in Colombo. The News First U reporter who submitted this footage had captured it this afternoon. Taking into consideration the massive protests that took place along with the increase in electricity tariffs over the recent past, authorities paid strict attention towards electricity conservation. However, this footage makes it evident that the expectations have not translated into reality.
Welcome back to the news. The Colombo University Teachers Association say that they will not accept the appointment of the new Vice-Chancellor to the university. The KUTAS request that the appointment made in violation of procedures be nullified and that a qualified person be appointed to the position of Vice-Chancellor.
The position of Vice-Chancellor of the University of Colombo became vacant on the 31st of January with the appointment of Vice-Chancellor Professor Shanika Hirumburagama as the chairperson of the University Grants Commission. Subsequently, applications for the position were called for and 2 applications and 1 nomination were received. One of the applicants is a senior professor. The other 2 who came forward for the position are senior lecturers. The Teachers Association charged that the UGC has submitted all 3 names to the President instead of the 2 names that received the majority votes. We are not prepared to accept him, so we ask that he resigns from this position within 2 weeks. I think this would be more appropriate. The members who participated in yesterday's meeting arrived at a decision to not engage in any voluntary services in this time frame and not to participate in any meetings attended by the Vice-Chancellor.
තිබෙන සුදුසුකම් නොවේ ඒ වෙනුවට දේශපාලන අධිකාරයට
The appointment of persons to positions considering their political loyalties and not their qualifications and appointments made based on the whims of those currently in those positions are a common sight. In truth, this has contributed greatly towards the collapse of the university system.
එහි මෙම තත්ත්වය බරපතල විදිහට මේ හේතු වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
දැන් පටිපාටිය වැරදි කියන්නේ කොතනද?
Where was the procedure wrong? The appointment is made by the head of state. Has the procedure not been followed? Or has the Grants Commission not followed the procedure? When this was brought to the Grants Commission, I was not involved in any way. Procedure was followed 100%.
මේ සියලුම විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ සියලුම පාර්ශවයන්ගේ විරෝධතා මැද්දේ ඔහු පත්.
Another problem is that the person who has been appointed as the Vice-Chancellor is the husband of the chairperson of the UGC. We also submit here that this raises concerns regarding the independence of the university.
මෙහෙවන්නද එහෙම නැත්නම් ආණ්ඩුවේ දේශපාලන න්‍යාය පත්‍රයක් විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය තුළ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න. ඒක හරියම පැහැදිලි.
If he is being appointed amid protests from all factions in the university, is he being appointed for the administration of the university? Is he being appointed to implement the administrative system to meet the academic goals of the university? Or is it to implement the government's political agenda within the university?
I cannot influence a vice chancellor in any way. This is 100% independent. I'm not the one who allocates funds. They are doing various things because the person they wanted was not appointed.
In related news, a number of issues has begun to arise at universities. At some universities, it has come to a point where the lecturers at the university are refusing to accept the appointed vice-chancellor. Meanwhile, staff at other universities are staging demonstrations. The following report is about a protest that took place at the University of Peradeniya today.
The protest was organised by the trade union collective at the University of Peradeniya. The protesters carrying placards engaged in a march from the Galaha junction to the Senate. They engaged in the protest against the registrar that has been appointed to the University of Peradeniya. The protesters engaged in a demonstration opposite the Senate. Our efforts to contact the Vice-Chancellor of the University for more details on this situation proved unsuccessful.
What are your views on the protest taking place in the university system? Express your views on newsfirst.lk or log on to our Facebook page and post a comment.
In other local news, the Ministry of Foreign Employment Promotion and Welfare says that the Saudi Arabian government has granted a common amnesty period for illegal migrants. The ministry says that illegal migrants will be provided with 2 services during this amnesty period, which will remain in effect until the 3rd of July. A media briefing was convened at the ministry today to inform the media on these measures.
Under this system, under this amnesty, these people will be able to return to Sri Lanka without paying the usual fine. Domestic aides and drivers who obtained visas were their sponsors prior to the 6th of April 2013 and where the sponsor has subsequently lodged a complaint with the police that they had left their service are entitled to this amnesty. While those who worked at companies and institutions are also entitled to this amnesty, it is essential that the sponsor have lodged a complaint with the police prior to the 6th of April that the individual in question has left their service. Those who fall into these 2 categories can obtain exit visas from the immigration police of that country, also known as the Javasad.
Immigration police එකට ඒ රටේ කියන්නේ ජවසාද් කියලා. ජවසාද් දෙකෙන් රටෙන් පිටවීමේ අවසරපත්‍රය ලබා ගත යුතුව පවතී.
Journalists also questioned the minister on the appeal for a pardon made by the mother of a Sri Lankan national who is currently in prison in Abu Dhabi, convicted of murdering a compatriot.
රිසානාගේ සිද්ධියේදී නම් මම
In the case of Rizana, even though the subject came under the Ministry of External Affairs, I took over it because Rizana was not a killer. This case is a murder. The victim is a Sri Lankan national. The aggrieved family is refusing to grant a pardon. They have clearly said no. According to the laws of that country, if they refuse to give a pardon, you will not be pardoned. If they agree to grant a pardon, then the Ministry of External Affairs will intervene regarding the payment of blood money. But what I think is that if a crime has been committed, it is a crime anywhere. Therefore, punishment must be suffered wherever it is.
Views were also expressed at this media briefing regarding the suspicious death of a Sri Lankan woman in Jordan.
In the case of any death, the primary responsibility is with the Ministry of External Affairs. Action must be taken via the Ministry of External Affairs. This woman had been registered with our bureau prior to departure. Thereby, we too have a responsibility to make inquiries.
අපිටත් සැකයක් තියෙනවා මේක ස්වභාවික මරණයක් කියලා කිව්වට මේ සිද්ධිය ස්වභාවිකද?
We have a suspicion because they said it was a natural death. But is it natural? The gun belonged to the sponsor, but the sponsor died 3 months ago. But it is the sponsor's gun that has been used. Therefore, we have our suspicions.
එතකොට අපි ඒ නිසා අපිට සැකයක් තියෙනවා.